Hi, Keith Mirante here with Coastal Chiropractic of Madison. I'm here with
AnneMarie Rocco. I'm an attorney with Dzialo, Pickett, and Allen. I work in the litigation department and handle injury cases involving motor vehicle collisions, slip and falls, dog bites, other such things.
Hi everybody, my name is Sylvia Rutkowska. I'm also a partner at Dzialo, Pickett, and Allen, and we have offices in Middletown and Old Saybrook.
So this segment with motor vehicle accidents, we want to discuss a little bit about what to do following up with healthcare providers after a motor vehicle accident. So a lot of times we just spoke about a lot about that the symptoms don't typically peak until 3, 4, even 5 days, and they last for months afterwards. So in the beginning, what should we be looking for in terms of maybe going to urgent care or an emergency room, or even seeking your own primary care or the care of another provider? So how often or how quickly thereafter should we be doing something?
Okay, great questions, doctors. What we see is that that it's very important that you document your injuries. It may be that you are having symptoms within the time frame that Dr. Mirante mentioned. You might have symptoms immediately, but it's very important to call, a trusted medical advisor. Whether your symptoms are so serious that you need to go to the emergency room, perhaps you need to see your primary care doctor, perhaps your chiropractor, you need to see anybody that you have a relationship with or that you trust. That's a good idea to see. From the claim standpoint, it's very important that these injuries be documented. So when you see that medical provider, make sure that you're being thorough about what you're feeling. I know a lot of people say, well, of course I heard. I was just in a car accident. And they don't think for some reason that they have to fully explain those symptoms to their medical provider, but it's important that you do. So if it's neck problems or back problems, maybe a hurt wrist, maybe many symptoms, it's very important that you tell the medical provider so they can get that in a report, and that report becomes part of your permanent file, which then may become important later in the claims process.
Yes.
Sorry. It may or may not be used in the future, but the most important thing is it's documented, because if it's not documented, it never happened, and then it becomes your word against someone else's word. So it becomes very difficult if something's not on paper. We had a great discussion earlier about the damage to the motor vehicle versus you, and in a lot of the research, all it takes is 8.2 miles an hour of impact to do damage to muscles, to ligaments, to discs, to the spine. And so can you share with that analogy that you used and how it was a really good analogy talking about damage to the vehicle versus damage to our body?
Sure. Insurance companies want you to believe that it's common sense that minor damage to a vehicle means minor damage to your body, or the opposite. But I think the studies show, and scientifically it shows, that that's actually not quite true. The analogy that we typically give is the egg carton. If you're going out to the grocery store and you're purchasing eggs, you may pick up the carton and it looks just fine, but if you're anything like me, and I think what's pretty standard is you still open up the carton and sometimes there's a broken egg in there. Even though the carton looks totally fine, but the egg is broken on the inside. So obviously the car is the egg carton, and the egg is your body. And cars are built in a certain way, especially nowadays, to take that impact when our human bodies are not.
The other important thing to remember is everybody's made differently. People have, they may have pre-existing conditions that may be exacerbated by that impact. They may have something inherently a part of them that makes them more susceptible to injury. They may have
arthritic changes already.
Arthritic changes. They may have
scoliosis or curvatures. Exactly,
brittle bones. Any one of those things that might make them, as the egg in that carton, more susceptible to injury. So, sometimes people think, oh, I only tap them lightly. They're making up those stories. Well, that's not necessarily true. And as we said, everybody's different.
Yeah, and all sorts of little things, as I'm sure you can speak to this as well. How you're sitting in the body, whether in the car, whether your head is turned in a certain way. Even the fact that sometimes females are more susceptible to more injuries in the same exact car accident than a male can be. So all sorts of things come into play, and everybody is different. Another thing that I just wanted to point out really quickly is you really want to, when you're talking to any medical provider, give them a head-to-toe analysis. There may be things that you're feeling that you think are totally unrelated, that may in fact be related. So for instance, dizziness or ringing in your ears, you may think that that has nothing to do with any actual injury, but it actually could. It may be a concussion symptom or all sorts of other things that typically we'll see those kinds of things where people just don't mention it because they don't think it's related. Let your doctor be the doctor and just tell them what's going on.
Really important. And just to follow up on what she said earlier was positioning inside the vehicle. And yes, male versus female, passenger versus driver, direction of the impact. All those things are very important factors that your healthcare provider or someone like myself would really be able to dive into and understand. Were you looking out the rear view mirror? Was your head turned up and to the right? Were you a passenger, looking down into a bag or something? All those little tiny details play a factor into how your body could have been impacted from this from an accident. So again, I hope this was very helpful information. Thank you so much for sharing. And this is signing out, Keith Mirante,
AnneMarie Rocco.
And Sylvia Rutkowska.